Welcome to yet another video where we're going to go through all of the different steps and thought processes that I went through to make this particular seamless looping animation. We won't remove any of the mistakes so that you get an idea of how different people figure out these forms of animation. If you stick till the end, I have changed the animation a bit and made a different one as well, so you can have a look at that too. The entire video has been sped up to 2.5 times the original speed. I first created the base mesh, which would be put on an icosphere using geometry nodes. I initially wanted to have all of the instances aligned to the normals. However, I wasn't quite able to get the desired effect. So I did try out quite a bit of manipulation initially to see if I could figure out where I was going wrong. But as soon as I saw this particular outcome, I saw that it still was looking cool. It was something that I probably could work with if I tried. However, I still wanted to see if it was possible to have it aligned to the normals. And the difference is that, yeah, I was able to figure it out. I was attaching the normal into the wrong socket. Instead of rotation, I should have put it into the bottom socket and it would have worked. So I have created another animation with that. However, I haven't recorded myself making that. It's just a change of inserting it into the other socket, and also I've changed the speed of the animation a bit in that one and changed the background as well. So you can see that at the end of the entire video. However, once I decided that I'll just go ahead and try figuring out something that looks good with this type of rotation, I wanted to have them also rotate about their independent axes. So I thought I could do that using a math node and adding something to it. Of course, I think maybe having both this form of rotation as well as the noise textures, the scaling that you will see later on, was a bit of an overkill. I still think that the outcome looked good enough. At this point, I was also trying to figure out what would make this exactly loop. So I was trying different values, and for some reason I was trying pi instead of 2 pi, which should have been more obvious because one full rotation is 2 pi radians. But it took me a second to just remember that fact, so a bit of trial and error before I figured that out. As usual, if all of you would prefer step-by-step tutorials rather than seeing the entire process, do let me know and I would create tutorials as well. However, if you just want the files, the completed files, or you just want the actual animations to use in your own projects, do let me know that as well, and maybe I can make these available either on Gumroad or create a Patreon. So it all depends on what all of you prefer. I will have a rebranding soon enough, because more than just making only 3D loops, I'll try making other videos that use the other features of Blender, including VFX compositing, maybe just wallpapers, maybe 2D animations as well. So there will be a little bit of rebranding soon enough. But for now, until we reach that stage, I'll continue with this system till I get maybe a few more subscribers, some more views. Let's see how it goes. I also do all of the recording in one single take. So all of this is from scratch, me trying to figure out something that looks cool, and even the recording is just whatever gets recorded in the first shot, with all of the mistakes, all of the stutters, stammers, everything, because I want this to be made in a way such that people see what an absolute first shot looks like. I don't want any form of cleanup or anything that makes people think that, okay, they're not good enough. Everyone goes through this phase as they try creating something, and this is to show people the amount of mistakes that go in while doing something for the first time. So that's why even the recording is done in one single shot. However, here I've started to scale the instances based off of a noise texture, and I've made the noise texture 4D so that the sizes itself would change and I could animate that. However, to make the animation loop, I've added a mix RGB node, and I've used both two noise textures, one that goes from +1 to -1 and the other one that goes from -1 to +1, as the factor of the mix goes from 0 to 1. So that's just a quick method of creating a perfectly seamless loop for situations such as this. I think a majority of my time went into figuring out what would look good for the background, and although I did end up with something that I liked for the background, I don't think it looked that good later on when I was looking at it again, which is why I changed the background the second time around when I went about doing it with all of the hexagon actually facing along the normals. All of this is just the lighting setup. I thought orange and blue would be a good enough combination, and that's what I went ahead with. Here I just added in an icosphere with a wireframe to act as a center, maybe to give this some more depth to the animation. I'm not sure if that was a great idea, however I chose to keep it both in this as well as in the next render that I made. So it stayed. In the next render, however, I've subdivided the icosphere as well to give it a totally different look. But overall, I'm not quite sure how good that went and if it would be better off as just the rotating sphere. But it is what it is. In this particular render, I did notice that there was quite a bit going on with the rotation of the hexagons as well as the different scalings using the noise texture. So I decided to keep my camera stagnant and not have it loop as I generally do in most of my other looping animations. In the following render, however, I did use my general technique of parenting the camera to an empty and having it do one entire loop around the sphere, simply because when I had all of these hexagons aligned to the normals, there was no requirement for the camera to remain stationary because there wasn't so much of movement with just the scaling. So I thought it looked better with the movement of the camera around it as well. This background greatly slowed down my animation. I'm not quite sure at exactly what point it began slowing down completely. It was around here when I added in the distortion to get the nice stars in the background. It became very, very slow. That's why rendering this itself took multiple hours, even using Eevee. That's why in the second render I changed the background to something that would allow me to render it faster. I thought that this would make it look like the stars are twinkling in the background. Again, I'm not sure how well you can see the stars with the compression on YouTube, but that's what the aim was. And I realized in the final render that didn't actually look that realistic, possibly because of the speed at which the W axis was changing. So that's why I just decided that it was better off without having that in the second render. Here I already noticed that the W was changing way too fast and it just looked like randomly moving dots in the background and it didn't actually look like twinkling stars. So I reduced the speed at which W was changing even more, and while testing, I could see that now it does look like it is changing a bit and not completely going like random dots wherever every single frame. But in the final animation it did still seem like there was a lot of random dots just appearing and disappearing in every single frame. I hope that it would take a few frames for those dots to appear and disappear, but that just wasn't the situation. However, for now I thought I was happy with it, so I set all of the things and hit it to render to get this particular outcome. It perfectly loops, but the stars weren't that great, and there was quite a lot of movement happening even with the camera stationary. And since I did try and figure out how to get everything aligned to the normals later on, I successfully did that to create this particular looping animation. Here there is the noise texture changing the sizes of the hexagons, and it's perfectly looping. Stay tuned, watch all of these videos, and hopefully you learned something useful from this.